this mission is and the participation. Our next speaker is from Australia, Jocelyn Brewer. The title of her presentation, Stop Counting Digital Calories and Consider #virtual vitamins. I know, you've gotten you're wondering, what's this going to be about? The 6-word bio, Sydney-based psychologist and creator, digital nutrition. Please welcome Jocelyn. Woo.
Well, it's lovely to follow a mother and daughter team because I'm a mother-to-be. My little digital citizen will be landing next March. And I'm very, very curious, I guess, to see what kind of world he or she, don't know yet, will be growing up in. So, digital nutrition, this is not about telling you how many minutes of exercise you need to do to burn off all of those delicious treats they have out there. Who's helped themselves? Come on. Yeah, I have. I'm pregnant. Come on. I came up with digital nutrition a couple of years ago. I'm a high school teacher by trade who then trained into becoming a school counsellor, which in Australia is basically a school psychologist. So for me, digital nutrition, or where digital nutrition sits, is part of this big dig sit kind of conversation. And this is the model that my state education department uses. In New South Wales. I really like this one because you get the sense it's a world. And it's very similar to the ISTE one of the 9 elements. And you get the sense that cyber safety and cyberbullying is very much embedded in that. But there are other elements. And where digital nutrition sits is really within this space of digital health and well-being. What are we doing online? How are we being good humans and healthy humans? So most simply, red asterisk, it's about preventing internet addiction, double asterisks. Simply because it's not simple. An internet addiction, we really don't know what that is. Even the folks at DSM, the psychiatrist who create the DSM, the new version, who said, internet gaming disorder, yeah, there's something going on there. They themselves say addiction is a terribly sloppy and unclinical word that is polemicizing people. And we really need to get better analogies than using the drug one for kids and technology, especially because who gives them the technology? It's not the iPad fairy that lands when they turn 13. It's generally the parents or the schools. Okay. So, thinking less simply, what digital nutrition is really about is using the analogy with food to help steer us away from this obsession with screen time and counting digital calories. And the American Academy, very luckily last week, came out and backed this up. We know that there's not a simple time limit that we can put on kids and say, okay, that's a healthy amount of time online. We really need to ask much more nuanced questions around what we're doing, the content and the context of our screen time. It's about designing savvy digital habits that keep us at the controls of the tech use. And we've probably heard that saying, technology is a fantastic servant but a terrible master. Okay. And it's about understanding the mechanisms used by developers. I mean, we kind of had a question about this earlier, that keep us scrolling and swiping, and what ethical tech design actually looks like. And there's a great dude, Tristan Harris, who has a concept called time well spent, who's looking at this. So you should check his work out along the lines of it. What I'm trying to do here is basically pull together digital culture, digital information, psychology, neuroscience, parenting, and whip it together in something that parents and educators, consumers of digital technology can use that buddies onto the decades of research we've been doing about what healthy eating and healthy lifestyles look like. You don't have to go and become a social media maven or a tech IT expert in order to understand what a virtual vitamin might be. So we know what these are. Very few kids do I show healthy eating pyramids or plates to. I have to say, America, you really need to work on your portion control. Yeah, my boyfriend and I have just stopped ordering food for each of us and just said, we'll share something. So we know what those are, and we also know that fad diets do not work for a sustainable, weight loss, healthy lifestyle. We get wrapped up in the Ds, in these terrible diets. And then we think we need to go on detoxes when our bodies actually do that quite naturally. Hopefully, we also agree that prevention is worth a bucket load more than a cure. Okay, so we see this sort of idea of we need to go to militaristic style boot camps to cure our addictions and all of these sorts of things. If we can actually work on the good habits to begin with, we don't need to get there. So if we are what we eat, we've heard of this analogy quite a bit, if we are what we eat, how might we consider more effectively the cognitive, social and emotional impacts of technology? How do we develop these healthy tech habits that negate the need for digital detoxing? Imagine if apps and games came with nutritional labels. How do we feed our mind the best information and ideas? And I think it's actually David who had the Kafka versus the Kardashian kind of complex around, what kind of, and this goes back to the panel before, I guess, on media literacy and information literacy. How do we read that landscape and how do we choose the things that are actually going to nourish us, no matter what medium we choose to actually digest it through? Whether it's Snapchat or Musical.ly or, the good old Guardian or insert newspaper of reputation. So, thinking beyond screen time, consider that some activities are superfoods and some are just empty calories. And if you want a little bit more on what the superfoods I think exist are, maybe check out my TEDx talk where I have a little bit more of a riff on what digital superfoods might be. So, sorting the digital candy from the digital kale. Now, I know that's not kale, that's broccoli. All right, but again, we're trying to think about how do we separate these two. Generally, educational games look a lot like chocolate-covered broccoli. Kids see those educational games that are like, let's learn maths and make it fun. And they're like, no way, where's the guns and the driving the cars and stuff? There is a fantastic movement of developers making indie games or serious games. We have a really great little industry down in Melbourne who are making some really amazingly exciting educational games that don't have any trace of broccoli, but are broccoli, the DNA of broccoli. So thinking about the online supermarket, massive. There's 1.7 million-ish games and apps. So actually working out what to look for within those, especially, there's maths games that look heaps like slot machines. We call them poker machines. They sing and they dance and put colours and you guess things. The priming that happens around the gambling, the gaming sorts of things. It's hard for parents to know what to look for, what's actually inside these. Yeah. Now we have great organisations like Common Sense who obviously spend a lot of time and resources reviewing and credentialing these. There's another organisation, Know What's Inside, that has a really great system by which you can select what kinds of apps and games you're looking for based on your online or your in-app purchases, things like that. But actually it's really, really tricky for parents. And a lot of what happens is it just goes on popularity. Your 12-year-old comes home and says, everyone's on Musical.ly, and you go, oh, I don't know what that is, but if everyone's doing it, right? So I came up with this idea that we need to start thinking a little bit about virtual vitamins. And I'm going to propose 3 today, but I'm sure that as a group we can collectively start thinking about more of what these could look like. So considering the need to evaluate the ingredients in the online activities to actually help credential them better. So here's my first 3. You ready? The first one I think of is play being like proteins. Proteins are the building blocks for our cells and for our muscles, and play is really one of those initial building blocks for what we're living and breathing. It provides opportunities for learning through discovery and through role-playing. We've talked a lot about role modelling, but role-playing is the actual practice and the living of that for young people. I really like some of these quotes here. Play is the highest form of research. A guy called Albert Einstein said that, right? Another one, the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. That's a favourite of one of digital nutrition's sort of superheroes, Jane McGonigal. That's one of her favourite quotes as well. The next one is creativity. Creation, or online creation, should really be championed over online consumption. We've heard a little bit about that today. Think about creativity keeps our imaginations unlocked. How many of us as adults think of ourselves as creative? Oh, I'm not creative. Right? I hate public speaking. Can't do do that. All right. And it helps us focus, or helps us think about novel and solution-focused thinking. Again, these are the 21st century skills that 21st century teachers and learners have to get a hold of. And finally, vitamin E for empathy. There's a lot of fear out there that empathy is being diluted by technology, but it's a key social and emotional skill. So again, some of these developers and gamers and different people who are creating new types of games are actually looking at enhancing connection by telling different stories and alternative perspectives, much more pro-social, narrative-based games that actually build empathy. So what are the other virtual vitamins? And I guess I encourage you to hashtag virtual vitamins and come up with yours. Tell me what the niacin and the iron and all of the other different things that we kind of have in our consciousness around our food is. You can hashtag, you can get in touch. I'd love to hear from people down in Australia. I know that Casper's here and he is originally Australian. I haven't met him yet. It's quite lonely down there. It's really far away. So I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, and to connect. Thank you so much.
Vitamins, which I think is so helpful for parents, especially as you said, we get away from the numbers of 2 hours of screen time. How does a parent negotiate that? If it has some vitamin C for creativity, some E for empathy, some protein, how do they, what's your advice?
I'm going to write a PhD one day and it'll be about that. Can you wait? I
have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. Can you do that?
Look, it's all about what we're talking about here today. It's about the communication and the conversation around, well, what does this look like? There's no hard and fast rules, right? That you're never going to be able to test a game for vitamin C the way you can an orange. But you can have a conversation about what it feels like when you're playing. Does it feel like you're becoming more connected to other humans, or does it feel like actually you're withdrawing and having some sort of really yucky feelings towards the rest of humanity? That's the conversation that actually, as Jason was talking about, and lots of people I guess are talking about, connects up this prefrontal cortex, which is really so important. It's not about, so much of it is just about brain development and keeping the offline and the online in balance.
That's great, wonderful. Everybody, a round of applause.